not only Cindy Luongo Cassidy and president of the board, but I am a Hays County, Texas master naturalist. Woo! Shout out to the master naturalists, right? Got a lot of them in the room here. We had this on the screen early. I want to make sure that you know our mission. It is not to take all your people's lights away. That's something that hopefully you share automatically with people in your community. And I almost turned around and said, yes, our motto is better lights for better nights. That's on the back of our t-shirts. I had one of those on yesterday. But yeah, better lights for better nights. Love that. You guys know that dark skies are disappearing. We're losing it more and more every year. We're working hard to do things that can combat that. We're seeing some successes. But we know those percentages, that more than 80% of the people have never seen the Milky Way. Who has ever taken somebody out, maybe on a star party or just at their home, and had a guest who goes, what is that up there? Yeah. Hands up. Oh, yeah. And they go, they've never seen the Milky Way before, and they don't know what it is. We're losing that connection. So let's think about all the components of light pollution. We've got glare, sky glow, light trespass, and clutter. I don't think this group needs to be educated on that, but you might choose the component that you dislike most. You know, who votes for glare? Yes, that's me. What about sky glow? Oh yeah, I see some hands up. Light trespass? Yes, we all, nobody likes that. And light clutter. Oh, there's some communities that not far from where I live, in the county that I live, where my husband and I used to go out for dinner. They have put up what I call light pollution on a stick. Doesn't look too different from this microphone. It's a pole with a globe light on top. They thought they were doing this wonderful historical thing. Basically, we refuse to go to that community to go out to dinner anymore because it's blinding to us and we feel like it's dangerous. So, components of light pollution. We're going to touch on a picture that I know you know and love. Does that make you feel safe? This is a great one to show people. And, you've got that floodlight on the side of a home and you think, okay, there's lighting up my backyard. Make me not be afraid. We know what happens. You get rid of the glare, you stop that glare because of the way the human eye works, where the human eye responds to and sets itself to the brightest thing in its view. But when you get rid of that, wow, the person was there. And of course, it's always fun to go back and say, look, that person was there all along. They were there. So I'm going to stay on glare a little bit. Some of us voted for glare as their worst thing. Here's a street, and this actually is courtesy of the Blanco Friends of the Night Sky. I don't know whether they took it in Blanco or not, but look at those street lights. Driving down that street, you're going to be blinded by all of those street lights. Here's another street light or street that is illuminated. And actually Grant took this picture. We got to go out and find some good pictures or places with good lighting. Notice you can see the street a long ways. You can see beyond it. You don't have that glare in your eyes. The lights are not just, flat and you think we used to call full cutoff. They have a shield around them and the light is illuminating the area for you to see, but eliminating most of the glare. So it was very comfortable walking out on that street. Here's another example. This happens to be a big old floodlight or wall pack hanging from a school, and they thought it, well, of course, manufacturers call it a security light. It must make us secure, right? I always call them insecurity lights, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. But let's look at a different school with the lighting that is controlled, that illuminates what you need to see. I don't think we have any cars here, but people were starting to come and for an event there. You could see quite well, and yet you don't have all that glare in your eyes. So they're obviously good examples of ways to illuminate without causing all the light pollution and glare. So this is an example of light trespass. The building on the left of the bar is across the street from the home on the right. The home on the right has 0 outdoor lighting. 0. Can you imagine trying to sleep in that home, trying to enjoy your front porch? So just some examples of the components of light pollution. Also referred to a lot as just ALAN, artificial light at night, ALAN. You will see that a lot. I want to make sure you're familiar with that term. Okay, an example of light clutter. Boom. Let's get blind going down the street. Okay, another thing that's not necessarily a component, but it's something that you would want to talk to people about if this is important to them, is the fact that so much money is wasted with lighting going where it's not needed. The figures here showing 13% of residential electricity in the U.S. is just used for outdoor lighting. 35% of all outdoor lighting is wasted, is an estimate, and that sets us up for $3 billion, with a B, dollars per year worth of energy lost to sky glow. One of the last talks I gave, I had people say, well, wait a minute, how do you save money with that? Yeah, the one on the right has a shield and the light's going down. That's good. We don't have the glare. We can see what we want to better. But how is that saving money? What I want to mention to you is that we've got photometrics showing that when you use the same type of lighting, if you go incandescent to incandescent, which probably you can't even buy anymore here or there, or compact fluorescent to compact fluorescent, or LED to LED, if you compare the amount of light that is useful with the fixture on the left, you'd have the bulb that gives you the amount of light to be useful. You can use a similar type bulb, like I said, LED to LED. You've got to you can't have apples to oranges. You can't do compact fluorescent to LED. You can put in a bulb in the right-hand one that is half the amount of wattage, which means it's sucking half the amount of electricity to get the same amount of useful light out at the bottom, which means you're paying half the amount of money, half the wattage, half the amount of money. Does that help you with how you can save money by just using the light you need rather than paying for light that's going everywhere? I've sometimes talked about the fact that you can go to places, and I mentioned McDonald's because we go out there and we want this dark sky. And if you look to the west, what will you see? There's a light dome. That's out at El Paso. 200 miles away? Somebody is paying, or people, there are more than one, paying for that light to be able to come and hit your eyeballs at McDonald Observatory. They're paying a lot of money for that light to come all that way. So that's something that is often a key issue in getting people to understand how this can benefit them. One of the many benefits for them. I want you to think about why you should care about light pollution, because people will ask you. This is something you should be ready to tell them. If you're advocating for it, you know, they'll go, why? Why? Okay, close your eyes a minute. Close your eyes and think about a time that you were out under a gorgeous star-filled sky. Oh, take a deep breath. How did you feel? How do you feel? Anybody? How does it make you feel? You can open your eyes now. No sleeping. Yeah. How does it make you feel? Relaxed? I couldn't hear some too. Yeah.
If I can find an object in my telescope, I feel good.
You feel good. He's looking through a scope. We're told by, yes, go ahead.
Sense of wonder. Yeah.
Sense of wonder. Yeah. Did you realize that physically your blood pressure will lower? That you have all these things that happen physically in your body that is good for your health. It's restorative. That's going on. That's what we're told by the researchers, especially some that we've talked with at UT San Antonio, where they are researching human melatonin. They can tell you, and there are researchers all over the U.S. that are working on things of this nature that's connected with this, where, you know, your body actually responds and you get better. Think also about the way that humans have connected with the night sky over the years. Name some of the things in our culture.
Navigation.
Navigation, absolutely.
Horoscopes.
Okay. What about some of our literature? Music. Art. Yes. Yes. All of these things and more. Think about our...
We have to change our song to not be big and bright anymore in Texas.
I hope we don't change it. I think we should use that as a goal. Yeah, those stars should be big and bright in Texas. But, you know, our original agricultural calendars, those type of things, humans connected with those. So, you know, it'd be a shame to lose all of this. We have all of that history and heritage that we can connect with. So I want to talk not only about us, I mean, we are important to ourselves, but let's talk about all living things. And how does light pollution affect all living things? Well, we will start with us. You know, let's talk about the benefits to human health. We have a list here of increased health risk. It doesn't cause these issues necessarily, but it is connected with them because the hormones that we should produce during the natural darkness at night is not there to improve our immune system and to keep us healthy. Notice that that hormone also is a precursor to some of the brain chemicals. So we have more and more studies coming out about the mental health issues that are created when we don't have that connection to the night sky. Well, one of the biggest culprits, we shall say, is blue light. Blue light, you know, people think, oh, no, I've got white light bulbs, right? I don't have blue light. Well, blue light is just a color in the visible spectrum. We can see it. We can't really filter it out. We definitely need it during the day. It helps us, you know, do things. It helps us be healthy during the day. But at night, it's better for us physically if we are away from it. So we've got this visible spectrum, and we're going to get the chance to look at it. And this is one of the things we do a little demo about this at our outreach tables. It's a great way to engage people. It is a way to talk about the fifth principle, We know all our 5 principles. To talk about the 5th principle. So I'm going to get some help, and we're going to pass out diffraction grating glasses. We've got some piles of them here. Everybody should get a pair to wear, and then we'll take them up afterwards. I hate to tell you, but okay. Who's going to be our photographer today? Did y'all see remember our Speakers Bureau picture with the group that had just put on their glasses? All right. Okay, we all have them on? Good. Obviously, look at the lights in the ceiling here. What do you see? Rainbows. You see that full spectrum of light that we were talking about? And it's that light. You see the in the blue wavelength that is most efficient at stopping us from producing our melatonin. Wow, if you guys could see the light coming from the projector, you would know that it is very intense with blue light. If you turn on the light on your phone, this is, keep it in silent, but turn on your light on the phone and look at it. It is very intense blue. When you finish that, put your hands around your eyes and look at this light up here. What colors do you see? Yeah, yellow, green, red. This is a bug light. This is a bug light. And you know what that does. The bugs are not attracted to it. It doesn't have that blue light that sucks them right in. This also is better for you. If you have it on at night, because it doesn't have that intense blue in it. That intense blue, any artificial light will reduce your amount of melatonin, but that intense blue really stops it in its place. So this is a pretty good light if you want, if you definitely need a light, maybe in in your bathroom. We'll just go right there. If you get up in the middle of the night, like some of us elderly people do, you might want that. Although some of us just walk around in the dark. Okay, here's another light to look at. Who uses these? Oh yeah, I'm seeing hands. Yeah, astronomers. I actually had some of these on my front porch, and I had people going, "Excuse me?" And I'm like, you can see well. Yeah, astronomers down in submarines, in the old rooms where you would remember when we would actually develop film and things. Sure, a light like this. Now we got one, and I think, do I have that one here? Oh my gosh. I picked up one on the way to do a talk one time. I went in and said, oh yeah, red light. That's what I needed for my talk. I was doing that. And, oh, you're going to hear it turn. And I thought, okay, I'll just pick up a red light. It'll be fine. What happened? Can y'all see that? It looks red, but boy, is it, the color spectrum is awful. It made us realize you have to be really careful. This was a party light. This was whoop, whoop, thank you. Very intense blue. Didn't want that guy. I know. Whoa. To me, that was a real good lesson in paying attention to the light bulb that you buy. All right, now we have one more that I want to show you, and I'm hoping you can see that. I'll walk around with it. This is one of the newest things we're having on. Frank, would you turn the lights off in this area a little bit? We don't want to get it too dark. A little bit more. Okay. My videographer will kill me. Okay, I'm going to let you see this. This is one that we're adding to our outreach table. It is True Amber. True Amber, yeah. And can y'all see that? Yeah. So that's one topic that we will be hearing about in our next talk. Thank you, Frank. You can turn the lights back on. Okay, so what we've seen is what is an example. You can turn, just pass these up as you go. What we've seen is what we're talking about when we talk about that blue light that is so detrimental to our health. And, people often don't understand that it's in many of the light bulbs that they've got, in many of the fixtures that they are around at night. They are unfamiliar with blue light. So that's a fun little demo that we can do. Noticed that humans evolved around the cycle of day and night. Blue light in the daytime, again, is beneficial. Exposure at night disrupts our circadian rhythm, disrupts our immune response, disrupts, physically things in our bodies. Well, let's move on to wildlife and plants. It affects their life cycles. We've got, as an example, some of our bird families. The percentages here are talking about the percentage in the reduction of the metabolic rate that normally would happen with these birds. I know we all love the Lights Out program. I like to remind people that, there are birds out there all year round too that we should take care of. And when those birds would normally rest at night, this is how much each bird family would reduce their metabolic rate at night. So the pigeons and their families, 20% reduction. The sparrows and that whole family, 50% reduction in their metabolic rate. Think about that. Wow. And they need that. And they only do that based on if it's dark enough. If it's dark, they'll do it. If it's not, they don't get that rest. Look at our titmice, 68% reduction in their metabolic rate. And hummingbirds, we know they go into torpor at night if they are around natural darkness. They drop their metabolic rate 85%. So, those daily life cycles, here's an example. It's not the only example of living things whose daily cycles are affected. It's just one example that we can share with you. It also affects annual life cycles. We talked about humans every day with our melatonin. We talked about the birds. They're annual cycles too. So if you think about, breeding seasons are triggered by as many or as few as 1 minute difference from one day to the next in the amount of daylight and the amount of darkness. Our fur and feather changes will hit migration, hibernation, bud burst. That may be a new term to you, but I think it'll be evident, and blooms, and then of course chlorophyll reduction. We've got the sample here in pictures of the tree, and you think, oh, the trees turn in the fall. They start that process, that chemical process, in the middle of the summer, at the equinox. That's when that process starts. We see it by fall. Wow, we live in Texas. We live with all the deer. You think they go, oh, whoa, it's October. Let's go, go into rut. Let's go chase. Or, when it's time for the antlers to grow. All of those are triggered by light changes. Causes triggers to affect the hormones they produce. It, of course, impacts leaf fall. This example is of a street light that is on part of the tree. Do you see what happens? Part of the tree, this deciduous tree, does what it's supposed to do, and that keeps it healthy. Part of the tree still thinks it's, it's kind of struggling along with, well, are we really out of summer yet or not? You know, holding on to those leaves. Another thing that it causes, life cycle type things, changes bud burst of when those new buds are starting to come out. We were talking yesterday about all the red buds popping out already, the agaritas in bloom, you know, all these things are happening. In a study that was, I think it was a 10, possibly 12-year study in the UK, they found that in areas where light pollution was increasing, that bud burst was happening as many as, as 7.5 days earlier than their average. That light pollution was causing, they felt, that bud burst to happen because, they thought, oh, there's more light, it's springtime here already. Here's a picture you may have seen where the light affects plant growth. Do you see the green on the left of the field? What do you think that's from? It's the lights in the highway, exactly. The lights on the highway have kept, these are soybeans, have kept them from, reaching maturity. The farmer could harvest the ones that had turned brown, they've reached maturity. He totally lost the productivity of all of the plants that were close to the road, that were in, where enough light was falling on them that they did not know it was time to go reach maturity. So, lots of plants are affected. It's not just, us and the animal kingdom. So it's affecting blooming cycles. There are a lot of plants that bloom at night. Those nighttime plants have pollinators that come. And if you have, fewer plants that will actually bloom because it's not quite as dark as they really want, and then you have fewer pollinators, and they found those pollinators pick up less pollen. It's a big downward cycle when there's light around those plants at night. Better lighting also helps the birds. We talked earlier about navigation and migration safety. We will mention some of our blog post again about how to protect the birds, how to do lighting so that you're protecting them all year round. You're protecting them all night. I know with like the lights out, it says start at 11, but we know you're conservation minded. It's okay to tell you the birds start migrating at dusk. The huge volume may be worked up to the middle of the night, but they start at dusk. So the 11 o'clock was chosen to try to get businesses and more people to say, okay, I can deal with that. I can turn my lights down after that. But if we do our lighting all year round and all night long, every night, in a way that helps protect not just the birds, but other living things, including ourselves, then that to me is the step to take. Of course, it disorients sea turtles. The picture at the top, do y'all see the little circles? The little tracks? Those are the baby sea turtles so confused about what direction to go in because they're supposed to go to the brightest thing. They're supposed to go to the sea where it's moving and catching the light of the stars and the moon. And they're seeing the condo light over here. Oh, and a parking lot light over there. And they're going in circles and have exposed themselves to predators to swoop in and eat them before they can get where they're supposed to be in the sea. Another example would be our fireflies. We all love fireflies. Leah was kind enough to give me a firefly sticker. I have one that glows on my cheek. Fireflies. Fireflies have, in North America alone, there are over, 160 some species of fireflies. Every one of them has a different blink, every species. And they'll only mate with the same species. So they're looking for a very specific blink in order to mate. When I'm talking with young people, I'd say they want to make a family. We have to be good with this. But they can't. They can't find each other because all of our lights are confusing them. They can't see another firefly to mate with. That is one of the top reasons in the reduction of fireflies all over the world. It also confuses their life cycle. So it's not just mating. They're going, is it nighttime yet? What are we're supposed to be doing things then. So it's a double confusion for fireflies. Light at night, our light at night also alters the predator-prey dynamic. There are lots of predators who need light to see their prey, and they might use the light from the stars and the moon. So there's prey that would refrain from going out during the full moon. But if there's artificial light around that makes it like the full moon all the time, then they have to go out, to survive. So we're changing that balance. There's an impact, a big impact on insects, and I'm going to take a second and let y'all read this quote. They're talking about the insect apocalypse, which is kind of a scary word. But that, we think, oh, that's insects. That will affect us. That will affect our crops. That will affect, that whole food web. That will affect us down the line too. So we should care about that. The millions of insects that die at our lights that are left on all night when we don't need it. This is one that's a relatively new study. They say that artificial light at night, that there are a lot of trees that it makes the leaves tough. Well, you think maybe tough leaves could be good. Well, the problem is the insects that are supposed to be eating those leaves, or the bird, whoever's supposed to be eating those leaves or getting, insects off of them, don't like the tough leaves. So say it's our birds that are supposed to be eating the insects that would be on that particular, I'd say native tree, because that's where they would prefer. If we have that, then we reduce the number of insects available because they don't like those tough leaves. And you think, okay, well, the birds can eat other things. The problem is the birds need those insects. They need the protein during certain periods of their life cycle. When they are molting, when they are migrating, there are lots of times that they need the protein. So I'm going to wrap up that part of looking at the natural world with this quote from Catherine Rich and Dr. Travis Longcore. What if we woke up one morning only to realize that all of the conservation planning of the last 30 plus years told only half the story, the daytime story? When they first wrote that, there was a very small amount of research that was being done looking at behaviors at night. Fortunately, in the 15 years since then, there has been more and more and more research done about how living things need that darkness and what happens if they don't have it. So we are benefits of that research, but for so long, all we looked at was what's going on in the daytime when us humans could see what was going on. Well, why? We've gone through all these bad situations. We know that there's a solution to it. We know that the light pollution is the pollution that we can solve the easiest if we educate people. And of course, that takes us to the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting. I want to emphasize to you all that these were put together in a specific order. First thing for any light, number 1, is it useful? What purpose does it have? Why is it here? Do we need this? What do we do with it if we don't need it, if it doesn't have a purpose? Turn it off. Take it down. I've known people to threaten to use violence against them. I don't recommend that. But yeah, if you don't need it, get rid of it. Next thing is if it's targeted, shine it where you need it. If it's at a low level, if you control it in a warm color. And we'll talk about each of those. So, is it useful? I have an example here, of course. Do you see the light that is illuminating the roof? I choose to say that one's not useful. You may say, wow, I want to show off the roof. I guess it's a perspective thing there. I keep wondering if that light was put up before they built the porch out, because it was an old building. And I also, while we're looking at this one, notice how the light over the sign is so bright that you can't read the sign. We'll talk about the amount of light in a minute, but useful, first thing. Next thing is if the light is targeted. And I love this photo. Here we have our light pollution on a stick, or light bomb, whatever you want to call it, over on the far left. That's very bad. It is just spewing light everywhere. You can't, you couldn't see anybody if they were under it. The next one, and of course, look above it. You can't see any of the stars. The next one is still pretty bad. Even somebody put a little hat on top of it and said, okay, we're going to stop this light. Nope, it's still pretty bad. The next one is better, and that's what we used to say, and I keep hearing people say this. Just full cutoff, just have it down below the horizon. The problem with that is that newer research has found that light 15 degrees below the horizon and 15 degrees above causes more sky glow than light going directly up. So stop saying just turn it down. Please. I'll ask nicely. The next one, you've got it coming down. The light is shielded to where it's coming down at an angle and hopefully stay on the property that it was intended to be on. So target your light. Shield it so that it puts the light where you need it for the purpose you have it. Well, I'm sure you've all seen this little diagram that Bob Creelan did a number of years ago. The thing I want to point out is that the acceptable lights all have the bulb hidden. You do not see the source of the light. That is an easy thing to check. You do not need a degree in lighting design. You should not see the source of the light in most cases. I'll give it up for under a sports field, but and in most cases you do not want to see the source of the light, especially from any other property. That is a key thing. And don't have it any brighter than you need. I have the service station here as an example that needed to be bright. There are government regulations about how bright it needs to be on a gas pump. You're dealing with a highly flammable fluid. You've got to see well. This service station has lights embedded in the ceiling that are directed, LEDs that are directed down on the pump, so that if you're driving by, and I'm no nighttime photographer, that's why we have other people, but I did take this picture, and from where I was standing over here to take it, the pavement, the cement looked light to my eye. It was just, the way that my phone camera said, no, it's brighter over there, and made it look dark. The whole area was very comfortable to walk around in, and it was brighter under the pumps. So use the right amount of light. Notice in the, it's a Dunkin' Donuts on the left. Everybody's got to, go by the donut shop once in their life, I guess. And they had softer lights, but you could see it was very comfortable there. Okay, next principle, use light only when needed. If a person is not there to use the light, turn it off. It will not stop crime. I know we are continuously told, we need these security lights. If you have other ways of doing that, our professional security people, studies done by the Justice Department years ago that shows that there's, it doesn't indicate that it stops crime. There's a recent study done by Rice University that said, no, there's no correlation here. So use it only when it's needed. Have a person there that uses it. And use those warm colors that we just looked at through our diffraction grading glasses. Use bulbs that have these warmer colors at night. So you can make a difference. Dark skies do start at home. But with this group, I'm going to challenge you to help your community modify their lighting practices to reduce reduce that artificial light at night. So I'm going to reach out and say that we can do things together. If you're not a DarkSky Texas volunteer, maybe the group that you partner or that you work with can partner with us. The more we do together, we can use each other's efforts, leverage it, and do better. Are there any questions for me today? Okay, yes.
That HEB, is that the one where they save money by redesigning it?
Yeah, the HEB, we found out later, it's the one in Dripping Springs, and it was the first one that they did like that. It's the one that actually, there's some quotes for me about talking to the contractor, who put on his big Texas hat and said, honey, my wife would never go in the service station like that because it won't be bright enough. It's got to have, and I don't remember the number of foot candles he quoted, it's got to have, like 18 foot candles for her to feel safe. You won't get people coming in there. And I said, that's interesting because the Illuminating Engineering Society says what you need is, and I gave him the quote for that type of area, and it was not quite half of what he was suggesting that they must have. And I think he was taken aback that I actually had good figures from a source that should be listened to. And that kind of stopped the conversation, so they did what we had in the ordinance. And then we found out later that by doing the lighting at that service station the way that we required, which, cut their cost. That service station, and they've modeled others since then, but that service station was their highest grossing service station in all of HEB land for years.